I'm Danny Otto. Welcome into an all-new episode of That Recap Show. Now, before we get into the episode, just wanted to issue major spoiler alert. We are going to be going over everything that happened in episode 5 of The Skeleton Crew. So if you haven't watched that episode yet, you may want to pause this video, head over to Disneyplus, check out that episode, and then come back and enjoy the breakdown. Now, with that out of the way, let's start the show.
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
All right, joining with me to break down everything from episode 5 of The Skeleton Crew, it's Jon Jon Rico.
Don't bother me. Mentally, I'm in Lanupa. What's it called? Lanupa. I said Mamupa, Babupa.
It's okay, you're relaxing.
I was so relaxed, I didn't even care about the name. Lanupa. This looks so relaxing.
Yeah, don't go in the wrong pool, though. One of them's acid, so just be careful.
Yeah.
Star Wars!
We don't want to do that.
but yeah, I mean, kick it right off.
Star Wars.
Star Wars! Spa Wars.
Yeah, did you catch that?
I didn't catch it. It took an extra second.
It's a good one.
It was a thinker.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Look, I know we've said this in the past, and I give all the credit to you because this was your example of what the series felt like. So all credit to you. I'm not going to step over what you've said. But this episode, I feel like felt the most like the Goonies mixed with like an Indiana Jones movie almost. Like the kind of, that's like the full vibe of this entire, because we had like, we're looking for special symbols. We uncovered hidden chambers, like you had booby traps. You had to solve puzzle, like at least a couple puzzles. Yeah, you had a couple solve some puzzles. Like it was just cool, and I agree with you that like this whole entire series has like felt like the Goonies, but this was the episode that really like was spot on. Felt like the Goonies.
It was pirate adventure-y.
Yeah, and we got all the pirate treasure and the pirate like.
Oh yeah, big treasure room, which is always great.
Yeah. Oh man, it was awesome. The other thing is, and I had to note this because this is incredible. We finally got Wim fulfilling his lifelong dream of holding a lightsaber.
yeah.
And he does pretty much exactly what I would probably do if I, not being a Jedi, picked up a lightsaber. And the best case scenario of not chopping any piece of my body off or his body off, he held it upside down and then immediately dropped it.
Yeah. Probably the best example of showing that that's a loaded weapon that you're giving a kid. And you probably should be careful with who you're giving it to.
But it was like, it was built up so well because it's like this moment of Wim could be a hero. Like, oh shit, he is like really embracing this adventure. He's going to be a hero. Like, and everything, and you even had like kind of that music of like he's gonna stand up for his friend Fern.
Yeah, they built it up.
Yeah, and then
boom, the way it bounced. The bounce to me was a really nice touch too, because it could have just been like, oh, he dropped it and it's just on the floor, but the way it just like ricocheted off the floor, flew in the air was really funny. Or
what if it? Yeah, what if it had done the thing? Do you remember the episode of Rick and Morty where Rick finally builds Morty a real like lightsaber and he accidentally drops it while it's still like up, and it just keeps going through the earth?
You dropped it perfectly vertical, Morty.
Yeah.
But anyway, Rico, what were some of your instant reactions for episode 5?
Yeah, I think this probably was my favorite episode of the series so far because of that. It had kind of all the elements of what makes the show really good, but also really cool Star Wars elements in it at the same time. Everything on Lanupa is just really cool because just the fact that they had this whole legendary mountain that was known to pirates, and then it's been turned into like this big spa resort. It was just really a funny twist to it. I was a little worried that it was going to turn into like that like Jack Black and Lizzo episode of The Mandalorian at first, but then it like actually was. They had some really funny characters in there. I wish I could remember the name of the bounty hunter that was on them the entire time. But she was really cool. And I think she was actually played by the actress who voiced Merida, the Pixar movie Brave. So the Scottish princess girl. So I was like, this girl sounds really familiar. And I like the way they kind of did some kind of a tie-in there with the Mandalorian verse too, because she brings up the guild of bounty hunters and stuff too. She's like, nah, just not some like low rank guild job. Like she's working for someone higher up, which ends up being Brutus. The wolf characters, who's really awesome. So yeah, I like that whole element there. And then just some classic pirate shit there too with the whole booby traps and solving and riddles and stuff like that. So this was a really fun episode. But man, one of my favorite things in this thing was we got a really cool creature in this episode, Cathalops, which I don't know what like the name of the creature is specifically because it's the first time I've ever seen something like him before. But just like the whole like scale of the creature compared like to the kids and stuff, and the way he's able to use like his tentacles and stuff, that the way was really like kind of at first really creepy, but then ended up being kind of like this wow factor. And then of course I like the way when they come back and he's just like, tell me your stories. And and I was like, yes, I want this guy here all the time. Before we got to meet Cathalops, one of the things I actually popped for the most was getting to see the hut sitting in his mud bath and eating one of the tenants.
He goes, not again.
I'm like, wait, have you been eaten before? Or is it one of your homies been eaten before? I don't know what you mean by that. Getting to see, just anytime I get to see a hut in a live action Star Wars project, I always get really excited. And the last one we got to see one was Book of Boba Fett. And I've heard rumblings of Jabba's son possibly being thrown into a story in the future, possibly. Who when he first debuted in the original Clone Wars episodes a long time ago. So kind of follow through with that would be a really cool thing. So give me more huts. If I can get more huts in the future, I'll be a very happy Rico.
So let's all hope for that. We need a happy Rico. Anyway, you want to get to some big takeaways?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome! All right, I'm gonna kick off big takeaways with a couple things, but first off, kind of a big reveal. Like we kind of find out, what the whole mystery around Aden is. Like it's supposed to be an old Republic mint, so like making money and stuff like that. I still don't I don't think that's all of it, because I get it. Like that's I mean, we have a Federal Reserve, we have all that kind of stuff. So like I get like why there would be extra security and stuff, but to completely hide the location of it and block anyone from coming in or leaving, and the people that live there don't know about it, type of thing. Something else like that can't be it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's maybe part of the story. So I still think there's something there there's more mystery with that Aden. Like, it just feels like
they gave us breadcrumbs for sure, but they didn't give us the whole picture. Absolutely.
Right. So that's why I said kind of a big reveal, because we got a reveal, but it's just kind of, because it's definitely not everything. There's definitely some more mystery around Aden and everything. The other thing is, I feel like I need to ask this again, and I haven't had to ask this since the first recap of the series. Is Jude Law's character a Jedi? Like, is he? Like, he was pulling stuff around. Like,
yeah, he could be a Force user, but there's Force users that aren't Jedi too at the same time.
But I'm wondering if we're gonna find out he's like a disgraced Jedi, like he left type of thing. Because I get that there are Force users, but like the amount of like skill that he has being able to pull stuff around is more than, just somebody who's just like figured out that he can wield the Force. You know what I mean? It just feels like he can just like, he's too good with it. That's how I feel, at least.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a particularly old character, so I think that at the very least he could have been a very young Padawan that found a way to escape Order 66. But again, he was able to wield enough powers within the Force to be able to like manipulate things, like pulling things around and stuff like that. But yeah, I again at that point, like you I don't think even he would call himself a Jedi because he never got to graduate from
Right.
Padawan to Jedi. So I guess obviously when earlier when he was like, I never actually said I was a Jedi. Like he's still telling the truth technically, but he still had some kind of training in some form
Mm.
or another. Or again, he's just someone who found someone who was able to teach him ways of the Force. Maybe he ran into a Jedi at some point in his life
Yeah.
that taught him how to use the Force in some aspects. Because we do know there are Force users out there. One that they teased in the recent trilogy is Finn, of course, who was never really thought to be going to be a Jedi, but he did feel the things within the Force in some ways.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I think that they're trying to throw elements of those kind of characters out there more, so it becomes more of a common thing. And I think this character being in like a pirate setting is a good way to kind of introduce that too, because he's using it in like this underworld setting, and it's a very uncommon place that we're kind of seeing it in the Star Wars scope.
Yeah, definitely. But Rigo, what were some of your takeaways from episode 5?
Yeah, man. So one of the things I loved about Lumpa especially was one, getting to see the kids just kind of act like kids.
Yeah.
When they're pretending to be the wise elders and stuff like that, but then they're just kind of being like they're so enamored with the whole spa area that they just want to be like, oh my god, look at everything, and then they're doing their little happy dances and stuff like that. And then when Jod's trying to get them all to kind of like focus up and kind of split up and do everything, and I think it's women knew like we want to go investigate the buffet.
Yeah.
Like,
We're not investigating the buffet.
yeah, like just him trying to like wrangle them all in and kind of keep them focused was actually really like one of the highlights of me for this episode. So yeah, I really love that. But man, the end of the episode here I think was really like the true like meat of the episode. I think was where I think or really picked up quality wise, because I think it was some of the best stuff that we got. When Jod finally decides to challenge Fern for the role of captain after discovering the mint, and what it could possibly lead to for him as far as like his eternal, the land of eternal treasure as they're known to call it. That whole scene is probably exactly why you cast Jude Law in this role to begin with, because one, it kind of plays in line with a lot of characters he's done in the past. A more recent one for me is obviously Captain Marvel, where he's like,
Yep.
seen as like an ally of Captain Marvel, but then of course he turns on her later on.
Mhm.
He's just really good at kind of playing both sides of that. Like he can charm you really well, but then he has no problem like turning the switch and then being really terrifying at the same time. And watching him do it to a bunch of kids, it kind of just adds that little bit of a layer to, because like, oh come on, man, like they're just kids. And you can even see kind of like the fear in their eyes too when it happens too, because like we don't want this to happen.
Right.
And the fact that SM-33 won't intervene because he's just obeying the laws of the pirate law. So yeah, everything about that whole scene was just really, really well done. And it's a real turning point for the entire series now that we're about, we're on the 5th episode, so we got about 3 or 4 more episodes to go. So now, like I would say, the part B of this story is really about to pick up. I think it's a pretty common thing that these Star Wars series tend to do, is like this first half of the series is kind of like this introductory part of the story,
Mhm.
and then we get like this cool twist, and then right there, like the rest of the story picked up. We just got it with Acolyte 2 when we got the big reveal of Manny Jacinto's character and all that. So yeah, I like this little format they kind of do, where like we kind of get one aspect of the series in the first half, and then it turns into a completely different thing in the later half. So yeah, now I'm really excited to see what's going to happen later on.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm really excited. I mean, and it did a really good job at, cutting it at the right time too. Like as soon as the episode ended, I was like, oh, son of a bitch, I want to see the next one. Like already.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, oh, are you serious? Yeah, so they did a really good job. I mean, not only did we get Jod, showing us he's grabbing the lightsaber. So Force grabbed the lightsaber, but then we have the kids going down, the chute.
Yeah.
Who knows where?
Great thinking by Wim there.
Yeah.
I know who.
But yeah, I mean, it leaves us on this like edge of your seat, kind of like what is happening next type of thing. So I'm really excited to see that. But do you want to get to some predictions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. All right, why don't you kick off predictions?
So one of the things I noticed in the beginning of the episode is, we get our check-in with the parents. And by the way, did I mention that the Wim's dad's played by the singer of TV on the radio? Because that's freaking awesome.
You
I've
finally
been finally
did!
waiting to do it because we didn't get to see them last episode, and I've been hanging on this little fun fact forever because it took me so long to realize it because I've been watching so many of their music videos lately. But yeah, that was really cool, and it's actually kind of cool to kind of see the similarities in the two characters now too, because you could definitely see moments where like Wim is definitely his father's son in certain moments, and it's really kind of cool to see the parallel between the two characters. But they're kind of doing some kind of like covert stuff within like the place they work, trying to like make moves to help get like messages out to help their kids, and and if it seems like they know, like like they have to keep adding the secret to some degree. Like they know a little bit more than I feel like than we know, I guess, or they're than the show's letting on to us. So now I'm wondering to what extent do they know like what their role is in this whole and system that's going on here? Like, were they members of this like TAC Renaud's crew back in the day? How far back does like this TAC Renaud guy go, for example? Because it seems like SM-33's been around for a while and that ship buried underground. So like who knows how long this system's been in place, and how whether they're descendants of people going back all the way to the old republic, or if they're like they were just a crew that took over and now it's just like their thing now. And yeah, so at one point do they let the kids know what's going on too, because if it goes back generations, that's a whole other thing. But yeah, that's like a pretty interesting story through that's going to be interesting to see tied up within the final half of the season. And yeah, I think now everyone's had like their big moment. I want KB just to have her big moment now too. I think she's kind of like the one that's next. And I feel like they're kind of teeing it up a little bit. They're giving us little hints about her character that they're seeming to have some payoff later on. And so yeah, I'm excited to kind of see more out of her. I think her and Neil, my favorite characters are out of the crew so far. Because Fern and Wim are awesome, but I think there's just something about these little quirky characters that I just find so endearing.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And it's funny you mentioned you brought up the parents, because that's exactly like another thing that I'm so interested. One thing I definitely had to note was I get what you're saying, where you can see, some of the same mannerisms between Wim and his father.
Mhm.
But the dynamic between Wim's dad and Neil's mom
Mhm.
is like complete opposite of Wim and Neil. So like Neil's mom is like pushing Wim's dad to plug that into the computer to get the message out, type of thing. And he's like, I don't know if I should do that. Like, it's like the exact opposites of character.
It almost kind of makes sense though now, because you see how like proper Neil is too. It's probably because he's got like a mom that keeps him like on the straight and narrow too. So it's like it like a lot of it plays a lot to how the kids play too. Like the parents play off of him as well. And then also like kind of the way he plays off of Fern's mom too, Carrie Condon's character. So now and she's another one that I'm kind of interested in, because she was trying to do everything on the straight and narrow, like the proper channels and stuff, and now she had to be convinced to kind of help them out. But
she's making a turn. Like
I'm starting to see what that could possibly lead to as far as her power and what she can actually pull off as strings wise.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Like what I was going to mention is just kind of going right off of what you were talking about. I'm so curious at number one, the origin of like this generation, I guess, of workers, because obviously we're seeing two different generations. We're seeing the kids generation who know nothing about even what their parents are working for or doing, type of thing, and then we have the parents who, just like you said, obviously they know more than the kids. Right. But we don't know to the extent of what they know, or who knows more than the other. From the very beginning, I thought Fern's mom was kind of on the inside and was kind of part of the supervisor group type of thing.
Yeah. That's nothing worse. Yeah, the supervisor.
But it's starting to feel like, especially with the scene that we got in this with the parents, it seems like Fern's mom, she might know a little bit more than the rest of the parents, but she's not like on a different tier than the rest of the parents as far as like the knowledge of what's going on and how to do stuff and everything like that. Unless she's completely lying, and then she's a real good actor. Like, and I'm not talking about the actor that's portraying the character. I'm saying the character herself is a really good actor type of thing. So I'm
playing both sides.
Right. I'm really curious to see, you know, just like you said, the origins of the adult generation, if they have any kind of contact or any kind of association with the pirates crew and stuff like that. And then like what they know of the great work. Do they all know that this is like a mint thing? Is there like or is there something bigger? Some bigger secret that we don't even know yet, type of thing. Like, you know what I mean? I'm so curious. It gives us like, what I love about this series so far is they give us breadcrumbs just enough to be like, oh shit, what is like? Could it be that? And then it's like, nope. And then they give you more breadcrumbs, and you're still like, oh shit, it could be something completely different. And so, it's great. I love it. And like I've said, I love having mysteries like with this regular through line adventure story too. Like, so we have other reasons to be like paying attention to stuff and to be watching it and kind of like wondering what's happening type of thing. So
yeah. And still part of me thinks is that Jod is gonna actually still end up being allies with the kids at some form or another. Like, even though he's going after them and he's taken over SM33, like, one, I just think him and SM33 as a pair just makes more sense as far as like if you're going long-term storytelling, like that you could have more adventures with those two guys. But also like the fact that there's still like an overlooming threat for Jod and Brutus. I feel like there's gonna be a point where either Jod has to either have the kids save him, or he doesn't want the kids like to suffer in a bad way from Brutus, and he ends up having to save them. Like, I feel like there's still going to be a crossroads for him character wise, where it's going to be like his humanity is going to overcome his greed. I feel like at some point, and which is big for a pirate, I would say.
Yeah, I think going on like exactly what you're saying. I think before this group gets off the planet, I think we have a situation where the kids are about to leave. But they can't. I mean, obviously, they don't know how to pilot the ship, and SM33 is not gonna, answer to them anymore. But I think Jod gets kidnapped. SM33 also, I guess, and the kids like have a moment of opportunity where they could go back to the ship and try to figure this out, or they could, try to save SM33 and by extension Jod, and then they kind of show him what it means to kind of be like a real team type of thing. And that kind of shakes him into, okay, I need to be decent to the.
And if he does end up being like a former Padawan or whatever, it's all about being selfless at the end of it too. So like his selfishness has to take a backseat to the selflessness at the end of the day. So I think that's still the big the turning point for Jod that we're waiting for. That thing is gonna have some hopefully a really good payoff.
Yeah,
hopefully it turns into a decapitated Brutus.
But I like the space werewolf. Anyway.
Yeah, but
lightsabers. Lightsabers! Yeah. Anyway, that's what we think. Let us know in the comments below. What did you think of episode 5? And you know what? I can't think of a better question to ask. What do you think is up with Adden? And how is this group getting there? Like, there's so much that's going to happen in the final chunk of this season. I can't wait for everything to come. I can't wait to get more breadcrumbs. I can't wait to figure out this mystery. And yeah, I'm here for everything. And don't forget, as always, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to hear about all of our latest audio and video podcast release. Bye, everybody!
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.